Welcome back to the show. I talked about it in the big story, and we'll expand upon it now. The World Baseball Classic, USA and Venezuela in the championship game. It's amazing. This World Baseball Classic has been fantastic. And fortunate to be joined by our good friend Chuck Todd, former Meet the Press moderator, host of the Chuck Toddcast. You can see him on Noosphere as well. He's everywhere.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm great. You know, nice to when the airline industry kind of works on time.
Yes.
You know, I usually get one leg. You know, round trips never work. But now at this point, if I can just have one leg of the trip go well, then you feel like you've won something.
Yeah. I see. I have to fly East Coast all the time from Vegas, and it's not fun.
It's a tough airport to Harry Reid.
Yeah.
I will say that.
It's nice that it's only 15. It's nice that it's only a 15-minute drive to get there, though.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Right.
So I unbeknownst to me, I was texting with you last night. I said, "Hey, I want to get Chuck on to talk about the World Baseball Classic because it's world stuff and it kind of interweaves a little with politics sometimes." And I was like, "This will be a fun conversation." Little did I know you were at the USA Dominican Republic game.
No. I was at the Venezuela.
Oh, Venezuela. Sorry, you were at the
Italy
Venezuela
game.
Italy game. Okay,
I you know,
that's
so
fine. That's still awesome.
Why that game? Well,
Yeah.
I actually looked at the bracket, and you know, my son and I really wanted to go to a WBC game, and we were like, all right, it's Miami and Houston, and he goes to college in Dallas, but it was his spring break, and he was going to be in Miami. So I looked. I was like, all right, I can do one game. I saw you had semifinal Sunday, semifinal Monday, final Tuesday.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right, I can make Monday work. I couldn't make the other 2 days work. And I look, and I was like, oh, this is great. The most likely Monday matchup, assuming that the USA wins its pool and Japan wins its pool, will be USA-Japan. And I'm like, worst case scenario, I get as long as I get two of the following three, I said, USA, the Dominican, or Team Shohei, Japan. And didn't get any of those. And you know what? It was fantastic because I got the fourth best team you could have gotten, which arguably in Miami was the best team to just watch and appreciate and soak in the culture and everything. And that was Venezuela. Jason, I knew it was going to be different. You know, you'd seen the reports the last time. I think Venezuela and the DR faced off in pool play, and it was just, it was huge.
Electric,
and this happened 3 years ago before, right? We've seen that Miami you're sitting there going, boy, if the Marlins could ever figure out how to tap into this culture,
yes,
they would be there. This is why Major League Baseball expanded to Miami. They love it. And I was telling my son, I said, you're going to experience something you haven't experienced. Because I had gone to a baseball game in Havana, Cuba about 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was unlike, when you go to a baseball game in Latin America, whether it's Cuba, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, it is like going to a soccer game anywhere in Europe or a soccer game in Latin America. It is active. It is loud. It is everything is, it is not American baseball where we're all sitting there. Oh, yes. 2 strikes, get up, right? No. You don't have to tell the Venezuelans to get up. Man, they are going at 1 strike. They're getting ready. They're getting up. And it was, I'll tell you this, it was such an experience. You realize Team USA better jump out to an early lead. Because if they don't jump out to an early lead, that crowd is going to mean something. I mean, they sucked the life out of Italy when Venezuela grabbed that lead. When they took the 4-2 lead, especially when Acuna was the key hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it just went bonkers.
Yeah, and they were hanging on after they scored those 4, those 3 runs and made it a 4-2 game. They were hanging on every pitch, every single pitch. Yeah. And that bullpen is electric, by the way.
It's a great bullpen. I mean, you know, I look at this WBC and, you know, there's one thing that nags at me. We don't have the best versions of these teams.
No.
Because of the time of year, right? They're not ready. Not every pitcher's ready. I think the best time to do this would be to add a week to the All-Star break and do this mid-season when everybody's in peak shape tip-top shape. Look, you're going to have the same issues that you're worried about with doing it now. But now I think you'd more likely have everybody participates. It really is a bummer that Team USA doesn't have Scooble pitching tonight. And I'm a little bummed that he didn't. I'm not going to micromanage everybody's financial affairs. He's got a big contract and pitcher contracts. I mean, literally, if one thing goes wrong, he goes from, getting 2 years, $35 million to, versus 10 years, $400 million, right? Like this is, I understand it from that concern. But why are you playing baseball if you don't want to be in moments like this? Why do you want to do this for a living?
Even Joe Ryan turned down pitching in this game tonight, right, Sam?
Yeah, it has been crazy. And Chuck, it's something I've been talking about for weeks on this show, how disappointed I am as somebody who played baseball for 2 decades in the U.S., right? It's very hard to watch.
The Scooble thing bothers me. And again, I used pretty tougher language off air. And I'm like, because again, everybody's got to make their own decision. But it's a bummer. And again, I go back, okay, look, this is a weird time of year. Pitchers were so careful with how you strengthen an arm, and I respect all of that. So ultimately, look, it turns out Bud Selig was right. I think this is a Bud Selig brainchild, right?
Yep.
We all collectively, and at times he deserved it, crapped on Bud Selig a lot during his era as commissioner. But he made some transformational decisions that have really paid dividends long term. The wild card being the biggest, and WBC being another one. And look, it was an experiment. Spring training was the best time you could pull this off and get everybody to participate. Great news. Everybody loves it. Let's turn it into a July extravaganza, because guess what? In July, you own this baseball. You're not competing with the NCAA tournament. Yeah. You're not competing with the college basketball at all. You're not competing with your own spring training, NFL free agency. Yeah. Give me, I think it is, let's go. July, you're doing you got the whole labor agreements coming up anyway. Put it all in there. 2029, it's July 1st through the 15th.
Listen,
let's rock.
Play the prelims in spring training and have
that's interesting.
And have the final 4 teams. Our friend David, and our friend David Ardsma brought that up on the show.
Fascinating way to do it.
Yeah, he brought it up last week on the show. Chuck Todd is hanging out with us. We're going to hang out with him for one more segment and talk some baseball with him from the World Baseball Classic. What it means for baseball going forward, too, when it comes to all the labor strife. I mean, if this doesn't teach baseball anything, I don't know what does. We're coming back. Chuck Todd is here hanging out with us. Talking about the World Baseball Classic with him. He was at the Venezuela-Italy game. And by the way, Italy, hats off to them. Showing up with, as Sam likes to say, the JV squad, the American JV squad, and performing really admirably in this World Baseball Classic. Let me ask you this.
Do you feel better about the Kansas City Royals now?
It's true.
Between Pasquantino and Caglione. Boy, let me tell you about that Jack Caglione. And I follow a little college baseball, so he was the Gators. I think
Sam loves college baseball. Oh my God.
It is this, how you just see a guy that has the look and you just sort of, you're like, this guy has it. You just can't. You were like, oh, Venezuela should be scared. And they pitched around him a couple. He had an unintentional walk, unintentional walk. I think a 4-pitcher one early on in that game. Let's just say I'm going to overpay for him in my fantasy draft next week. I'm in.
Fair enough. Real quick, you mentioned this in the last segment, and I've actually tweeted this out a bunch of times. Now seeing what that stadium sounds like when it's full and people are rabid, if the Marlins ever get good, that's going to be a fun place to watch October baseball, Chuck.
And here's the thing. I mean, this is, my frustration with Miami baseball, with the MLB. It goes back to, it was when you make the initial decision, sometimes the worst decision that you make. And the worst decision that was made was identifying a gentleman named Wayne Huizenga to become the owner of the team. He hated the city of Miami. So much so he refused to call the team the Miami Marlins. He called it the Florida Marlins right then and there. should have been the red flag. Nobody thinks of Florida. Miami is separate from Florida. I say this with respect. It's just Miami is its own thing. It's its own brand. It's Hong Kong. Okay. It is just its own thing. And Huizenga had this whole Fort Lauderdale obsession. And, look, the garbage man did not understand marketing sports. And he just wanted a second tenant at the old Joe Robbie Stadium, which is now, of course, Hard Rock. Anyway, and then we had the bad owner of the Expos where they didn't want him to own the Nationals. So they said, here, we'll just give you the Marlins, the jeweler. Well, he was just if you thought Huizenga was a bad owner. So it's not fair that Miami, gets dinged by other people. Oh, you're not a good market and all this. It's been I'm talking Dan Snyder-esque ownership levels, just terrible owners. But all you got to do, let's make Pujols the manager. And you basically just start building a team that is Dominican, Cuban, Venezuelan, right? You just sort of, you sign a couple of, maybe even the aging veterans, right? You get an Altuve, you have Pujols as the manager, you bring over a few, and I think you could build some excitement. And then all of a sudden, a Juan Soto, where does he want to go in free agency? He wants to go to Miami, right? He doesn't want to go to, why is he in New York? Right? If you're Dominican and you want to live in the States, you're going to live in New York or Miami. And Miami had a terrible baseball team, so we went to New York. I promise you, if Miami had been a competitive place to be, because he wants to go win, Soto's down there. It is ready to burst. The stadium's now in the middle of Little Van. It's the old spot where the Orange Bowl used to be. It's not put it this way, it's not the best place for the stadium to be, but it ain't inconvenient like Hard Rock. And the community loves baseball. Yeah. Just build a winner that the community can fall in love with.
Sam, go ahead.
It's a fascinating point, Chuck, and one that, for the record, we see work in international sport, right? There's the Spanish soccer club, I believe it's Sevilla, where they only sign players that are from one certain region of one certain country for this exact reason. It's ingenious. I had never thought about something like that. A thing I'm curious about from a WBC perspective, we have the Olympics coming up in 2028. It's only going to be 6 teams. It's going to be in LA. Do you think it'll be hard for the Olympics to replicate the environment that the WBC has been able to cultivate?
With 6 teams, I do a little bit. And, I understand the allure of the Olympics. If you're playing a sport that's not an Olympic sport, right? The NFL players are all like, well, I'd love a chance to be able to win an Olympic gold, right? And so this flag football business is exciting them. And they've seen the golf and tennis, winning a gold medal feels like a major now, right? We now have our 5th major if you're an individual player in those 2 sports. I got a gold medal. Okay, you got a Wimbledon, you got a gold medal. All right, that's pretty good. I am skeptical that, that you'll be able to recreate this concept, especially don't forget we'll be during the season, in 28. It's the summer of 28. Now, I could argue if you're going to do the Olympics, let's make it college. Maybe you do everybody, maybe you just do a 22 and under. And maybe you make that the rule for all of that for the world, that it's 22 and under, and you make it more of a youth movement. With there, and then maybe that can generate some excitement. But the stars obviously generate the excitement. But 6 teams, I assume your 6 are going to be Japan, the USA, Korea,
Dominican Republic, Mexico,
what? Chinese Taipei, right? And there's your 6. Maybe China wants in on this. I don't, I'm not sure how the rules work, but
Korea,
World Cup, Olympic soccer's never topped World Cup soccer, has it?
Nope.
I think you've got the answer to your question.
Interesting. Chuck Todd, I always appreciate you. For those watching on YouTube, we will actually have more with Chuck, but for those watching on TV, we're going to say goodbye to Chuck for now. We have more to get to in the show. Chuck, always appreciate you, my friend. Who wins, USA or Venezuela?
Boy, after experiencing last night, home field belongs to Venezuela. I don't feel good about Team USA.
All right.
I don't.
Neither does Sam. You guys are in the same camp. We're coming back, more to do, and Chuck will stay with us on YouTube. All right. So, wow, you actually feel the same. Sam has been down on USA. Sam's been down on the USA team the entire.
Clarify that because
issue. They do have a pitching
right.
issue.
My thing is not. I'm not. That's my thing, right? And it happens online too. It's a misconstruction of what my feelings are. In no way do I think this USA baseball team is a bad team. I'm not out here saying that, oh, they're not even the most, they're not the most talented.
They could challenge the Dodgers if you put that
100%.
I don't think they'd beat the Dodgers, but it could get close.
I don't think they would either. But my entire disappointment with this originates in look at how much more excited literally every other country is to play in this thing.
How about the other way around? The hotel I was staying at happened to be the team hotel for the DR, and and those guys are pretty upset. I mean, there's some O'Neill Cruz was like not wanting to look people in the eye. I mean, There's a lot, and there was a piece in The Athletic that I read that sort of like, oh, that's exactly what I thought I was noticing when we'd see Ahmad Rosario. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the non-superstars. I'm not going to sit here and we didn't see Soto or those guys, but I think the DR is really upset that they lost. And I think the players are depressed. If Team USA loses tonight, do you think Aaron Judge is going to hang his head? And I don't mean that to just pick on him, but I don't know if it means the same.
No, I've said that too.
As they say about a certain overrated athletic conference in college, it just means more.
Very true. I want to ask you about something, and Sam and I were talking about this when we decided we were having you on. I said I want to pick your brain on this because it's the one area, as you and I have discussed in the past, where sports and politics sort of intersect now, and that's in the prediction markets. And it feels like to me, and I saw the CEO, Tarek Mansour from Kalshi on with CNBC, and they did a good job grilling him on this idea of how easy it is to insider trading, oh my God, on prediction markets, especially on the political side of things. And people enriching themselves that way. How much of a danger is that for these prediction markets? And I don't know how they combat it.
So, you can combat it the way you combat it with Wall Street. You got to have pretty vigorous policing, and Wall Street's pretty good about it these days. But one could argue the FCC could always have more teeth. But that's the thing; these prediction markets aren't going to be overseen by the SEC, which is considered to have a bit more of a robust, enforcement mechanism compared to the Commodities Futures Trade Commission, basically the people that worry about the trading of corn and things like that. I was at a conference last week where he was presenting, Tarek Mansour, and like everything, like every debate we have today, there's always only two sides you're allowed to take, right? And look, I can be talked into the wisdom of crowds, and that's what prediction markets, in theory, especially. And look, he makes an interesting case. His case is like, look, in an era when you're not sure what to believe, the markets are another check. And when you present it that way to me, I'm a little more open to it. But I think that there's certain rules that can at least minimize insider trading. And it's a simple rule that the good old state of Virginia, of all entities, has figured out really well when it comes to mobile sports gambling. In the state of Virginia, Jason, you cannot bet on awards. I cannot bet on the MVP, the Heisman Trophy, any of that. It is a very strict definition of what you're allowed to gamble on in sports. It has to be a competition. It is not, in theory, something you can bet on that somebody knows the answer to before everybody else does. Okay? An event is you can bet on an event as long as the event is sort of out in the open and we all see it. But for instance, deciding what day you're going to launch an invasion, that is not something we all get that information at the same time. In theory, somebody has that information before the rest of us do. Ditto with who's going to be the next Fed chair. Ditto with what's going to happen in the future of Khomeini or Maduro. And I think that I think that there's a way, and I think this is in, this, I think the prediction markets are going to fight this at first because they're trying to get easy cash at the moment. And the easy cash is to create these stupid trades of, how long will Caroline Leavitt's White House briefing be? Well, again, that is something that is in control of Caroline Leavitt, right? So it can easily be rigged. So I think you can do both here, Jason. You can have a robust prediction market as a way to tap into the wisdom of crowds, have some hedging possibilities because of fake news that is out there, manufactured stuff. But you should have some strict definition of what are you allowed to trade on? What's a prediction versus what's something that you just hope that you happen to have the same guess that somebody has the insider knowledge of. So, because look, even in sports gambling, you have insider information. Oh, I know so-and-so's sitting out in the first quarter, right? I know this person's been suspended, right? So that's a version of insider trading. So so I'm very concerned about, and this administration, unfortunately, has a reputation of being extraordinarily, there's a lot of people involved that just want to make money for themselves. So there's a pretty low bar of ethics in some of these entities. So you worry about it more. And I apologize for getting too political here, but
it's okay.
It is, I do think this is one of those where I know people that are trying to profit this way, and it's gross. It's not illegal, but it's gross. And I think some rules of the road could do both, give more confidence to the prediction markets. But the problem is there would be fewer trades if you put in a stricter definition of what you are allowed to predict.
Yeah, I intentionally saved this topic for the podcast side because I don't care if there's any political discussion in there. Sam, you wanted to add on this.
Yeah, 100%, Chuck. And I'm glad you said what you did there at the end, because my question is, with the involvement that we've seen people both part of and directly associated with this regime, I guess, this organization, this administration, taking such leadership roles within these prediction markets being something that, as I'm sure you're well aware, in the political sphere have been around for 30 years at this point, right? It was the late 1990s when political theorists and political scientists originally started to use prediction markets on things like politics. Now, with members of the Trump administration joining these prediction markets, we're seeing them obviously start to expand and get more money and get into sports and stuff like that. Do you think it's a bubble where once Trump leaves office and once the Trump administration's gone and done with, these poly markets, Kalshis, other prediction markets out there will see a regression in popularity? Or do you think they're here to stay?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the Trump administration in that respect as far as popularity is concerned. I think you're just likely to see, I think Congress is just going to get more involved with this. So if there is that's where a change in administration, you're just going to see a more interest in doing some regulatory scrutiny. And I suspect Congress, if Democrats take over both, you'll have a lot more hearings and scrutiny on both the prediction markets and frankly crypto. But it's also why both of these entities are spending ungodly sums of money right now in political campaigns, because I think they know regulation is coming. And the question is it, do you want to try to control that process, or do you want to just hope for the best?
By the way, on Kalshi right now, which party will win the Senate? It's 51-49 now.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that the markets are that far ahead. I mean, I probably would be telling people I'm close to 50-50. I'd have been in more of a 40-45. I mean, they have to get 4. I can see 3. 4 is harder. And so I'm surprised that they're that, but that just, there's a little bit of exuberance right now. I think the Iran war tipped it, to be honest, which is a fair, by the way, that's what stock traders do, right? It's a fair perspective. And by the way, on something like that, I'm okay with that. Okay? Because that is not something that can be manipulated or handled with insider trading. Somebody could find out a candidate may be dropping out the day before, and you can game that. Well, it's like I said, there's no difference in finding out somebody's going to be on the injury report before it actually gets publicized that somebody's on the injury report, right? So that stuff is interesting, and I actually think helpful to covering a story, or if you're frankly in the prediction market, you're having to make decisions. You might be using it because you're worried about your own financial decisions for your company. So that to me is like a fair way to use the prediction market.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just the other day, I played around with FanDuel, their prediction market, which is available here in Vegas.
Yeah.
It actually just went to 50-50 while we were talking.
Well, this is what happens.
That's crazy.
I brought it down.
That's crazy.
Just by me saying it should be 45, I brought it down, right? Did you just make that bet, Jason?
No, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it because I'm
no,
like you.
I
see 3. People, I have a hard time seeing 4. If I were a better,
I would have done it when it was sitting at 35.
Yes.
Because of this moment. What I have to tell you as a gambler, do you know what I like the best about the prediction markets?
What?
Is being able to, so for instance, I went ahead and bought futures on Duke winning the whole thing and Houston winning the whole thing early. And as soon as I make money on those things, I'm not going to wait to find out if they win the whole thing. I'm going to cash out early, where it's harder to cash out early when you buy one of those tickets just on a straight up sports book.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing is, right, you'll understand this as a sports gambler, right, Chuck? My favorite part of the prediction markets, you can bet the no. That's always my question on the show. Jason will bring up some outlandish market, right, that FanDuel's posting, and it's a one-way bet that you can make, and the price is nowhere near reflective of what the real odds are. And I always say, can you bet the no? And what these predictions markets do is you can actually go and bet, no, this guy isn't going to be drafted first overall or drafted second overall or whatever the case may be. That is, I think that is the other thing that prediction markets really have going for them.
Yes.
See, he's taking the yes. One more thing I want to ask you about.
Yeah, and then I'll admit I got to make my own content soon.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I know we're all content.
I know we're all whores to our own content. What you're watching right now with when you see Brendan Carr kind of going after the FCC, going after broadcasters and talking about taking licenses away and all this stuff, especially now that you're not in that sphere as much. Watching it now, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, what kind of goes through your head when you see that? I'm
glad I left when I left, and I'd like to think I would leave under these circumstances if this is what if I thought things were getting this level of harassment. I'm really disappointed in the owners of the 3 broadcast networks that they've not stood up to Brendan Carr on this one. Because it's not for them. It's not about Brendan Carr. It's about your own journalists. So if your own journalists don't know you have their back, then they're going to assume you don't. And then they're stuck having to make decisions like, do I risk my job doing this? Do I make a compromise? You're putting everybody in a tough situation, and we all like to think you're always going to do the most righteous thing, but everybody's got bills to pay. And I'm not going to sit here and criticize somebody who's can't afford to lose their job, who isn't willing to put that on the line. Okay? Not everybody has that. Not everybody is willing to do that, and I respect that because, like I said, we all have bills to pay. But you've put all of those. It really has further undermined the credibility of the 3 broadcast networks. Their silence, the silence of Comcast, Disney, and Paramount here on Brendan Carr's latest ridiculousness, is the troubling part to me. Not what Brendan Carr said. What Brendan Carr said is not new.
What happens to CNN?
Look, they'll get sold after Trump leaves office because it's a headache that Paramount isn't going to want. It doesn't fit the rest of their business, but they're not going to sell it until they get the regulatory approval. But as soon as they get it, they're going to sell it. It's never going to have more value than immediately after it gets regulatory approval. So look, I think at the end of the day, they've got major debt problems that, with what they've done here. By the way, memo to anybody out there thinking about ever buying Warner Brothers. Don't do it. Ask AOL, right? Ask Comcast. They tried to take Time Warner and almost brought Comcast down. Luckily, the government told them to get out of it. They got out of it. This disaster here, Netflix got lucky and stayed away. I mean, Warner Brothers is the entity with the cooties. They have the cooties, and whoever ends up with them gets the cooties. I mean, I don't know what other word to use these days. I miss that word, right? But it is funny how just Warner Brothers is this just, anvil around the ankle of people. But no, it'll get sold. And, it'll be a vanity billionaire. And if you're CNN, you hope it's a benevolent billionaire, but you never know.
Chuck Todd, host of the Chuck Toddcast, former Meet the Press host moderator. Catch him on Noosphere as well. I always love seeing the clips of the great conversations that you have on there. It's fantastic. Always good to catch up with you, my friend. We'll do it during baseball season.
Sam, great to talk with you. Well, yeah, we got a lot to talk about as soon as baseball figures out their labor strategy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, not going to be baseball after this year.
No, I mean, so get ready for the best year of Major League Baseball since '94, because that's what happened the last time.
Yeah, that's true.
And we'll all love it and then be really pissed when they take it away from us.
Thanks, Chuck.